Yellowstone Supervolcano hit by 1,000 earthquakes in a single month, and USGS forecast there will be an increase as we saw unexpected swarms hitting the caldera, right over the caldera in Yellowstone, the center of Yellowstone Lake. And of course, they were shallow. They were about 5 miles down, and that was, of course, the roof of the magma chamber. Of course, that's not good for a supervolcano. As we know, supervolcanoes are not the same as regular volcanoes. Their magma chambers are huge, and the roof of the magma chamber is huge, and any quake is risking cracking the roof of the magma chamber. Now, Yellowstone volcano experienced more than 1,000 quakes last month, a 4-year record high that the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, says will likely increase in the coming days. After a period of intense seismic activity, USGS published its monthly report for Yellowstone National Park. It stretches, as we know, on the northwest part of Wyoming and into Idaho and Montana, 43 by 28 mile section. The supervolcano is one of the nation's most seismically active regions, and Yellowstone volcano also has been the site of 3 cataclysmic super eruptions estimated to have gone off. They went off 2.1 million years ago, 3.1 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. And this is one of the world's 21 some odd supervolcanoes. Now, the eruptions covered vast swaths of US in a layer of volcanic ash. We're talking about the past super eruptions. And should that happen today, the fallout would likely disrupt climate patterns and affect global food productions as well, as they had in the past. Now, the eruptions have also falsely led many to believe Yellowstone erupts like clockwork every 600 to 7,000 years, and that we're overdue, but that is not the case. You never know when supervolcanoes will erupt. And though geologists assumed more time and time again that this is not the case, fears about the volcano violently awakening persist. There are those that say it's overdue. Now, the latest report from USGS might do little to dull the concerns, as it confirms the 1008 earthquakes were detected in the Yellowstone Park region in July of 2021. The earthquakes were all recorded by Yellowstone Seismic Network, which is maintained by the University of Utah. But the USGS noted this is only a preliminary analysis and the number of tremors will likely increase, they said. That's what they forecast. Geologists expect dozens of small earthquakes to be tacked on the report following a particularly intense period of seismic activity recorded July 16. And let's not forget we had the Alaska 8.2 earthquake a few days ago. That must have shaken the whole West Coast. So that was not a small earthquake. I'm sure the whole earth rang like a bell on that one. Now, the USGS said this is the most earthquakes in a month since June of 2017, when over 1,100 earthquakes were located. Earthquakes like these are typically associated with the movement of faults, fracture zones in a layer of rock that can be caused by groundwaters rising. The strong earthquake recorded last month was the strongest was a magnitude 3.6 event about 11 miles under Yellowstone Lake. And USGS said this event was part of an energetic sequence of earthquakes in the same area that began in July 16. And this period of heightened seismicity was also marked by a number of swarms. Starting July 16, for instance, a swarm of 764 tremors were detected under Yellowstone Lake. That's a lot. 764 under the lake. A swarm of 40 quakes also detected about 12 miles east-northeast of Yellowstone in Montana, July 19. Earthquake swarms account for about 50% of all seismicity in the Yellowstone supervolcano region. And the good news is, though, none of this is a sign of impending Yellowstone eruption. The earthquakes are triggered by the movement of fault lines and geothermal processes rather than the movement of the magma. USGS assured while above average, this level of seismicity is not unprecedented and it does not reflect magmatic activity. They said earthquakes at Yellowstone are dominantly caused by motion on pre-existing faults and can be stimulated by increases in pore pressure due to groundwater recharge from snowmelt. If magmatic activity were the cause of the quakes, we would expect to see other indicators like changes in deformation style or thermal gas emissions, but no such variations were detected, they said. Yet, there are many people who continue to live in fear, believing the U.S. will one day be blindsided by a cataclysmic eruption of this supervolcano. Social media is rife with debunked claims and conspiracy theories about Yellowstone being overdue. And one Twitter user recently said, I'll just say that when I went to Yellowstone 50 years ago, I was freaked out the entire time. Well, of course, you're standing over a supervolcano. But it must be beautiful out there. Anyway, surreal with all these geysers and everything. Now, sleeping among free-roaming animals and on top of a supervolcano that's overdue for eruption definitely made me nervous, he said. Now, another person said, even after reading for years about how we are overdue for a pandemic, I, of course, was not emotionally prepared for COVID-19. It's just so outside our normal experience. Like if Yellowstone erupted, we know it's overdue, and there's no way to truly imagine that devastation. So rest assured, knowing that Yellowstone volcano is not overdue for another eruption, there's no reason to believe another big blast will ever happen again, at least not within our lifetimes. USGS said Yellowstone is not overdue. That's one of the more common misconceptions. First, volcanoes don't work like that. And second, if they did, we would still have about 100,000 years to go for a Yellowstone eruption. This is by Sebastian Ketley, Express UK. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.